everybody. You're listening to Busted Business Bureau. This podcast is produced by the illustrious nonprofit comedy theater venue, the Lincoln Lodge. You can find more info about the Lodge and other podcasts produced here at thelincolnlodge.com. If you want to support Busted Business Bureau, you can hit patreon.com/bustedbizbureau. You can also watch episodes of this podcast on YouTube at youtube.com/thelincoln Lodge. Today, I have somebody who I've wanted on the pod for such a long time. It is my friend Cookie.
Hi.
Oh my God. I've wanted you on since like season 1, dude.
No, we finally made it happen.
I know. Look at us go. Longtime friend. We've known each other for years and years. We went to Sundance together in 2018.
Famously.
Good times. Escaped the polar vortex in Chicago. Cookie, if I say the word Theranos, do you know what I'm talking about? Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes.
Yeah.
Can you tell me like a little bit about that? Like what happened? Do you know anything about what happened? Or do you just know who that is?
Okay. Scammer. I do know that.
Slay.
She pretended to have qualifications to like start a new business and didn't, and had a really deep voice or something.
Yeah, that some people say is like not her true voice.
Yeah.
She would like wear Steve Jobs turtlenecks and be like, I created a device.
Yeah.
That allegedly was supposed to take like such a small drop of blood and then be able to tell you like stuff about your blood sugar or whatever, I think for diabetics.
Cool.
Don't quote me on that. That's not what the episode's about.
Oh, okay.
But people have asked me to do an episode on her for a long time, and maybe I will at some point, but like there's like Hulu beat me to it with a whole series. Like
that's my full context.
Others have beaten me to it, but she promised this product that she wound up never making. I want to talk about the original Elizabeth Holmes, though, and I want to tell you a story that is, in my opinion, a lot funnier, filled with way more wacky hijinks and shenanigans. And this is a story about the inventor of the three-wheeled car, famously an invention we still have today.
Love it.
It's all over the streets. This story has everything. It has the OPEC oil crisis of the 70s. It has schemes. It has Tucker Carlson's dad. It has an icon that I refuse to lose to history. It's not Elizabeth Holmes. It's Elizabeth Carmichael. I'm so excited about this story.
She has the name for the story.
Right.
Oh my
God, we're about to be talking about this so much. If you're curating a list of Busted Business Bureau episodes, my listeners, by like type, I'd add this one to like the Rascal pile of like tricksters, like with the Charles Ponzi episode or maybe the IO episode too.
Wait, what are other piles?
Other piles of podcasts?
Like you got Rascal pile, you've got...
Probably... I don't know if I have several food episodes. I definitely have a KP pile. KP just like has their own pile. I guess there was the Monsanto pile, which was just its own season.
Yeah. Love a pile.
I don't have that many like classics on this podcast yet. I don't think it's like old enough to have like that's what I call Busted Business Bureau CDs. But I think I'm building it. This is going to be a classic. I can feel it. So, American Classic incoming, part 1. I'm not going to do this in parts. I just wrote that for just this part.
There's only one part.
So we're going to talk about a man named Dale Clift and the origins of this three-wheeled car. The story starts, as many great ones do, with a man who was bored in his garage and has no qualifications in engineering.
He was born in his garage?
No, he was bored.
Oh, bored. I was like, okay, Jesus moment.
Whoa.
Born in his garage.
Jesus was born in a manger.
Famously. We're telling the same thing. We're talking about the same thing.
A manger is just a garage for horses.
Horse pile. Add it.
How have we already started talking about horses and it's less than 5 minutes of the podcast? Cookie has this. Can I out you?
Yeah, go for it.
Cookie has this shared iPhone album called A Horse. It has like 30 contributors that we all just like.
And like 500 images of horses.
5 minutes in. I love this for us.
When you asked if I had any projects to plug, horse album. Shared iCloud horse
Oh,
album.
fuck. Also, Cookie directed Split Ends, which you can find online. I'm going to plug it in the description. Split Ends is this beautiful fucking film. It's so good. I catered for it, too.
Famously, all vegan meals. SplitEndsFilm.com.
SplitEndsFilm.com. You can find it there. And you'll see Niche Vegan in the credits. If you're looking for some Easter eggs. Or I guess not eggs, because those aren't vegan. That was dumb. I'm going to keep talking. So this man is bored in his garage in the early 70s. His name is Dale Clift. He's a tinkerer and a guy who enjoys cars, and he's based around Los Angeles, California. So it's LA, the 70s. It's sunny outside. He has an idea to make an all-weather motorcycle, basically, which is hilarious when you live in LA to be like, I need things for the elements. Like, fuck you, man. It doesn't get under 40 there. Wear a jacket. He wound up forming a prototype of a 3-wheeled car, basically, that's like took parts of a motorcycle and just like built not a cage, but like, a car around it, and was like, I need 3 wheels for this to have like my all-weather motorcycle thing. He took a bunch from a 1963 Honda CB77 Superhawk, for all my car heads out there, perhaps a windshield from a Volkswagen, and a bunch of shit that I do not understand, even after like reading about it for weeks.
So he's Frankensteining
yes.
his own.
He's Frankenstein's monstering.
My bad. Wait, also I have a question already.
Let's do it.
Is it 2 wheels in front, 1 in back, or
Yes.
1 in front, 2 in... Okay, cool. 2 in front, 1 in back.
2 in front, 1 in back.
Cool.
And it is ugly. It looks like a submarine. What comes is a functioning-ish prototype of a 3-wheeled-ish car that allegedly has, like, his neighbors take cruising. It doesn't go very fast. It's not like a car built for the highway, but it's like, oh, that's a fun project. But again, the car was not perfect. From this, like, car website history thing, quote, it was strictly a one-off vehicle with all the flaws and compromises inherent in home-built creations. Carbon monoxide leaked into the cockpit. Stopping power from the cable-actuated brakes and tiny wires was negligible. Crash safety was pretty much nil. Okay, so this is like it's like a fun thing, but not an actual car.
Right.
So there's this book called History's Greatest Automotive Mysteries, Myths, and Rumors Revealed by Preston, Lerner, and Matt Stone from 2012. And, oh wait, why did I put that there? I don't have a quote from them yet. Well, fuck yeah. I read that book, and there's quotes coming from it later. So, Dale Clift is long dead. He died in like 1981. We never get a side of the story of what happens next. But apparently, a very special lady worked at a marketing firm just a few miles away from Dale, and perhaps saw this car just like his neighbors cruising it around, because it's just a couple miles away. She, one fateful night, either she or an associate of hers, approaches Dale and his wife in a restaurant, and the promise was that Liz Carmichael's company would mass produce his design. And what's more, they would even call it the Dale.
Is she Liz Carmichael?
She is Liz Carmichael, yeah. This fateful lady. Or an associate of hers. Like, it's not clear if it was her or someone else. But this is an interesting pitch to Dale. He's like, I just fucking made this in my garage. Like, okay. He wound up accepting it for $1,001 and a promise for up to $3 million in royalties.
For 1,001 Dalmatians. He's like, I'll take it.
I'm begging for more dogs in my house. I don't have nearly enough. He's going to build a car out of the dog. Never mind. So, who is Liz Carmichael?
That's what I want to know.
She's this mysterious woman who bought this guy's design. What kind of company was she running? Well, let's do a little backstory. Liz Carmichael was born on a farm in Indiana in 1927. She had started fixing up cars with her dad at a young age and built her own car by the time she was 18 years old. Shortly after, she attended the Ohio State University and put her farm knowledge to use, got a degree in mechanical engineering. Oh, go OSU, I guess. She then got a master's in business administration from Miami. I always wonder what they do at like advanced business school.
Miami, Florida?
Miami, Ohio. I think there's a university. She found a wonderful man, a NASA structural engineer, actually, named Jim, had 5 kids with him, but was tragically left widowed after the birth of their 5th child around 1966. After that, she built her interest in cars from just a hobby into, like, a passion. Per People magazine, quote, she and Jim formed the Carmichael Research and Development Corps. When Jim died, Liz and the children moved to California, where she built her first car with the help of her 12-year-old son. On the test run, the car rolled end over end down a sand dune into the Pacific Ocean. It cost me $30,000 to build, she says, and it was a total loss. Undaunted, she built a second car, which she said was tested by driving into a wall at 50 miles an hour.
With her in it?
No, I actually don't know.
She just like tuck and rolled.
Yeah, like, do you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I've seen clips.
There's one where they try and crash a car into the wall to fix their own death. It was very that. Elsewhere in the world, let's talk about international politics for a second. So that's like a brief backstory on Liz Carmichael, her whole deal.
Pull out the degree. Pull it out.
In October of 1973, the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, led by King Faisal of Saudi Arabia, decided to completely cut off certain countries' oil supply. The countries were, I guess, the ones supporting Israel during the Yom Kippur War, including the United States. I cannot emphasize how big of a deal this fucking oil crisis was. Like, this is all I spent time learning about in college for some reason the first year, and I have not retained a single fact about it. But the effects on international politics, macroeconomics, etc., cannot be overstated. Like, we did not get, I think we got like 90% of oil from them at the time, and just to have it completely cut off was insane. People were freaking the fuck out in the United States. Nixon begged gas stations to like not sell on Saturdays and Sundays. Gas had gone from $3 a barrel to $12 a barrel. We just like stopped making plastic for a while because we needed like oils to make plastic. We just stopped doing it. States were banning neon signs. Gas lines were around the block. You would not believe it. It was like nut. Okay. By March of 1974, the embargo was lifted. International politics. Goddamn, did we learn a lesson the hard way? And again, I cannot overstate how like damning this was. August of 1974, the 20th Century Motor Car Company was incorporated in Nevada by Liz Carmichael. Because she saw the Dale, right, and was like, this is going to be my ticket to, like, building an empire out of cars because they're going to be incredibly fuel efficient. Like, this three-wheeled car, like, takes a lot of weight off the thing, and with the specific design that I can see in Dale's, like, plannings, I can really market this as, like, a eco-friendly, like, gas-friendly alternative to what we currently have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, again, the 20th Century Motor Car Company is what she calls it. And for all of you Ayn Rand heads out there, that's the name of the company in Atlas Shrugged. Are you familiar with Ayn Rand? Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about her?
Oh, I couldn't. I don't know that much.
Great. Here's a brief tangent for all you non-Ayn Rand heads out there. Ayn Rand is like the girly for libertarians. Her first book is The Fountainhead, which is about an architect who doesn't follow all those silly rules about buildings.
Math.
Written after she saw two buildings and found them boring, she wrote her book about the ideal man, unburdened by regulation, staunchly individual, and I assume excellent in bed.
Have you read it?
No. Why would I read? It's under Wikipedia. It's under,
Why would I read?
It's labeled under libertarian science fiction, which I can't imagine a worse thing. Like, that is a nefarious combination of words to me.
That is like a demographic for sure, though.
Right. And, like, there's
I've
certainly
met that
people
person
out there. I like browsed the other titles because obviously I saw libertarian science fiction, clicked on it, and I was like, I don't recognize any of these books, and thank God. So Atlas Shrugged is her fourth, final, and self-declared best work, Ayn Rand. It's about this lady named fucking Dagny. Her steel magnate husband and her want to build a railroad or something, but like the government keeps stepping in and like stealing all their stuff. For those keeping track, she does fall, again, under like the staunch libertarian genre. She hates socialism. Like, the main villain in Atlas Shrugged is like a socialist. The name 20th Century Motor Car Company is lifted out of the pages of Ayn Rand's work.
On purpose.
Yes. Liz Carmichael is a staunch libertarian. She loves Ayn Rand. Actually, none of her 5 children have birth certificates or social security numbers because she does not want to register them with the government.
Fascinating.
Right.
I just got a new social security card.
Did you?
Yeah, I just went to the office.
Did you lose the old one?
No, I just changed my name.
Oh, that's right. Oh, fun. I didn't know you get a new one. I thought you would just like, I thought it was just a number.
Yeah, you can get 3 a year if you ever lose yours.
I could change my name 3 times a year.
Or more, if you like.
You can get 3 a year, like, if you just keep losing it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Good to know.
Slay.
So I have 2 now.
What,
2 social security cards.
You have the old one, though?
Yeah.
Are you supposed to burn it? I don't know why I said burn.
I just meant maybe like cut it up like an old credit card.
Yeah. Scatter it across the Pacific Ocean.
I mean, it's the same number, so I'll just hold on to it.
Oh.
It's just changing the name.
Why I would have thought they would have changed the number. Oh, that is cool. I learned a fact today.
I'm learning many.
My favorite quote from Liz Carmichael, and I actually mean this, is, quote, "If you have enough self-esteem, you don't need God."
Cool. She transcended.
Right. She read the pages of Ayn Rand and just transcended her mortal body. Any hoozles. Oil crisis, 20th Century Motor Car Company. She takes an office in Encino, California, notably not Nevada, where her company is incorporated. Now she meets our friend Dale. She takes such an interest in his work that she tells him the company's factory, which is a rented hangar in Burbank, would support the manufacture of 250,000 cars a year once it's fully operational, which it is not yet. Like, she founds the company in 1974 and is like, I want your design. And like, by next year, we're going to have Dales fucking everywhere on the streets. So what was this car's promise to the public? Here's a quote from that same car history website. Quote, Carmichael said that the Dale, weighing in at 1,000 pounds, would sell for less than $2,000 and would be good for 70 miles a gallon, thanks to its 40 horsepower, 2-cylinder, horizontally opposed engine and its lightweight body made of Rigidex, a material supposedly 9 times stronger than steel. Per the New York Times, quote, the windows were made of a material called Rigidex, which has 70 times the impact resistance of safety glass. Only the force of a bullet could penetrate it. There were no pesky wiring looms to malfunction. Quote, the car is operated electronically through a printed circuit dashboard. All accessories, the radio, heater, air conditioner, are simply plugged in. I don't know much. Nor do I know much about cars, but what's your impression of this car?
I'm just like, really taking away one wheel does all that? It makes it that much better? How has no one else thought of this before?
Right. Because we've been, at this point, like, what cars were invented in the 20s-ish? Like, we've had cars for 50 years at this point. And, you know, kind of, if it ain't broke.
Reinvent the wheel.
Literally.
Reinvent it.
Reinvent the number of wheels if you can't reinvent the wheel. So this is from that book I mentioned before, History's Greatest Automotive Mysteries, Myths, and Rumors Revealed. Preston, Lerner, Matt Stone, 2012. Quote, she amassed a sales team and began aggressively marketing the Dale. Quote, we'll either be fabulously wealthy, she told company associates, or we'll go to jail.
Because it's just so dangerous? Like it's a fire hazard? What?
Like, either we are going to be so successful with this company or we're going to fall flat on our goddamn face. Because mind you, they have not built a prototype at this point.
Right.
They just have plans to. Quote, I don't want to sound like an egomaniac, but I am a genius, she told the Associated Press. I believe 100% that this car will revolutionize the industry. This marketing blitz is unbelievably effective. For starters, it's featured as a prize on The Price is Right. Again, we do not have any of these on the streets. It is still in its prototype phase. This is like either late 1974 or early 1975 that was on The Price is Right. The brochures are flying off the shelves with all these lofty-ass claims. Again, like bulletproof glass, like $2,000, which is dirt cheap for a car even in the 70s.
Yeah.
In large part, this is due to Liz Carmichael's magnetism and charm. Like, you hear this woman talk and she's witty, she's funny, she's self-effacing, but also, like, delusional in a way that's hard to ignore. It's fucking awesome. If I may, I'm obsessed with her.
Do you have a picture?
Actually, yes. Like, literally in 2 paragraphs. That's crazy. So the way the New York Times describes it, quote, in one swoop, the Dale promoter, which is Liz, combined women's liberation with a distaste for big businesses and an easy solution to the energy problem. And she has a marvelous gift for right-wing quotes, with an assist from Ayn Rand's book Atlas Shrugged. The press ate it up. Okay, like, there's these glowing, like, hardly questionable profiles written on her in this, like, gorgeous prose and just, like, no looking into any of her claims at all, you know. My favorite photo of hers, this is written in the script, it's also the favorite of the people who made a documentary about her in 2021, is of her standing looking directly at the camera, high-waisted white pants, cigarette in a hand, and she fucking slays. It's accompanied by the quote, they thought Henry Ford was crazy. I'll show them. I'm going to rule the auto industry like a queen. Look at her.
Oh, yeah, she looks dope.
Oh, she looks sick as hell. I don't know if the camera's going to catch, like...
Is that the car?
Like. Yeah, that's the car right behind her. So there's the 2 wheels in front and then the 1 wheel in the back. That's like one of the 3 prototypes that got built. Oh my god, I just banged that so hard. So she slays. Let's not get it twisted. Okay, but here's the thing. She tries to publicly incorporate... Oh, mind you, we started this in August of 1974. We're not even at December when, like, all of this shit is happening. Like... So she tries to publicly incorporate the company because she says she accrued $30 million of investors. The way she was making money at this point was 3-pronged. 1, sales of options to purchase cars. So she was like, if you want to pre-buy your car, you know, like pre-save it on Spotify.
Thank you for that. Now it makes sense.
Now I got it. You could like pre-buy the car. She was selling it to like dealerships. Like, you can carry my car if you pay me a certain amount of money, then you can keep like, you know, 20% of what you make on the sale. It wasn't exactly that, but you know. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand how she made money off the dealerships until like just now when I'm explaining it to you. And 3, sale of stock options of varying types, which again, mind you, she's still not a public company, so like you can't sell stock yet until you are incorporated as a public company. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So instead of like handing out stock certificates, it was just like an IOU or like a promissory note being like, okay, you've given me $500, you will have $500 in stock like once we go public.
And is that allowed?
I think that's allowed.
Cool.
As long as you do it. However, she apparently has a 100-person plant based out of Burbank that's working around the clock to build these cars. From the People magazine staff in 1975, quote, when the company offered stock for public sale, California's corporations department ordered it to stop because it did not have a permit to sell cars. Liz ignored the order. And she said, I am at war with the dirtiest industry in the world, and I want everything out in the open. If I get hit, I want these people to hear me scream.
What a genius.
What a genius. Because people are eating this shit up. Like, nobody likes big corporations ever, especially right now, though, you know? So again, she tries to go public, so she's written all these notes that, like, would be legal were she to go public. But when she tries, they're like, you cannot do that because you need, like, a permit to build huge cars. And she's like, I don't have one. Why would I have one? I'm a libertarian. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Great. So again, companies incorporated in Nevada run out of California with no permits for making automobiles. An engineer at a later hearing, which obviously there's going to be hearings, like I told you this is a story about a scammer, says at this point, around early 1975, that only 3 prototypes of the Dale exist. I'm sorry, I said 1975. I meant 1974. So when she tried to go public in 1974, there's 3 prototypes of the Dale. One of which was the one that Dale Clift, like, originally built. One was a display model, I believe, whose axle, like the front 2 wheels, the axle was just a piece of 4x4 that, like, the 2 wheels were attached to. The third one, writes Stone and Lerner, is described as the following, quote, towards the end of the year, Car and Driver, a magazine, dispatched photographer Mike Salisbury to see Carmichael and her plant in person. A yellow egg-like car, the Dale, was parked in a corner. There was no gas pedal or steering wheel. Ringed around the car, a couple of guys wearing Clark Kent glasses were scribbling on clipboards. Salisbury was convinced that they were performing a pantomime for his benefit. As soon as they left, he opened the engine compartment and found it occupied by a lawnmower motor. Quote, it didn't take much to realize that this whole thing was a scam, he says.
It's literally the Flintstones car where they're running. It's foot powered. Do you still need a permit now?
Wait, whoa. I think we solved it. Let's go back to 1974 and tell her that. By December 1974, once again, like, this is the part where I actually wrote it in the script. It's crazy that she does this in a few months. That she's accrued all this money, is ready to go public, has the media fucking nut over her.
She has a family to feed.
She's built this out of nothing. Like, she wasn't famous before. She wasn't like a high-powered executive at that marketing firm. She had no product, and she just made all of this out of nothing.
Out of some other guy's idea.
Yeah. Which
Her
that
mind.
guy also was not famous. Her mind. So again, December 1974. It's about to get macabre for a second, so forgive me for how little time I'm going to spend on this, but somebody in her office gets murdered. From the book, quote, even as a Dale was being displayed at the LA Auto Show, the company's public relations man was shot to death by another employee in the corporate office. This is scandalous and intriguing. Like, why was he shot to death? What was the stuff he was involved in? But this is not a murder podcast, and I feel bad, like, mentioning it to begin with, because, like, a guy died. But this salacious and mysterious murder gets the Dale and the 20th Century Motor Corporation even more attention. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, because they're associated.
Exactly. So, like, very sad that person died. Like, that's why I don't do stuff like that on this podcast. I don't like it. But yeah, December 1974, the state of California makes another cease and desist. So mind you, she had tried going public. They said no. The state of California then is like, girl, you cannot make cars. Please stop saying you're going to make cars until you get a permit. Per People magazine, quote, by late December, the situation in California had grown to such proportions that the state forbade her from accepting payments from prospective dealers and customers. Liz moved to Dallas, where she said the business climate was friendlier. So
Nothing has changed. Everyone's moving to Texas these days. Nothing has changed.
Time is a flat circle. So she just fucked off. The 70s are insane. Like, clearly there's impending legal drama that's gonna happen. So she just takes her 5 fucking kids and is like, hey, we're going to Dallas. Notably, at this point, she's living with a woman who everyone refers to as her secretary. Like, full live-in situation. The secretary moves with her to Dallas. Back to People magazine, quote, she boasted that she was going to build a $1 million research laboratory at a deserted Ford plant that would build 88,000 cars in 1975. Convinced that luck was with her, Liz had the test car flown in from the coast. But on the 20-mile drive from the airport to her Dallas office, the car broke down.
Yeah.
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 So here's the thing. people are already sort of like intrigued by her in the media, right? People are on the beat of this company. I think it's pretty interesting of a beat to follow. She was not making these huge moves unnoticed. So the same afternoon that her car is flown in and like breaks down or whatever, the Dallas Herald posts a story saying, hey, this woman never attended Ohio State or Miami University.
Oh.
Somebody was murdered in her last office under suspicious circumstances, which we will never solve on this podcast, but it's just like part of the story. Like, what was that? Who the fuck is this lady? Because we know these two things, and they don't add up. So back in LA, Bill Hall, whose job is, he works at the DMV in California, and he's an investigator for the DMV, which I did not know was a job that existed. It's kind of a dream job for me.
You can do it.
Really?
You got this.
You think so?
Yeah, pursue your passion.
Bill Hall says the following, quote, I went to this airport hangar where like they're building the cars. I went to this hangar. Upon entering, I discovered the hangars were absolutely empty. No tools, no machinery, nothing but a little bit of dirt on the floor. They rented this for 1 month and the rent had expired. So they actually did not have a factory that they were representing that they had.
Wait, is the DMV investigating her because anything to do with the permit that she's refusing to get, or is it?
I believe it is that.
Okay.
And it's like, she's saying she's going to build all these cars, and like, first of all, she doesn't have a permit. Let's go and seize all of the cars that she is saying she's going to sell. But then when they show up, there's nothing there.
They cleaned house.
She stole them all and brought them out of Dallas. I'm kidding, she did not. Because, I mean, famously, there were no cars.
Yeah.
Then there's a hearing. An engineer of hers, John Powers, reveals the thing about the lawnmower engine, like he says it at this hearing. As a direct result of the hearing, Liz and 9 other officers at the company were indicted in Texas for conspiracy to commit grand theft.
Auto.
Right. GTA, things never change. As her kids recall, Liz and the 9 other officials all had a meeting in their home in Dallas where Liz just like divvied up a bunch of money in a suitcase and then they all fucked off for forever. Like all the business dudes just left. In fact, Liz knew that the law was coming for her because in the middle of dinner one night in Dallas, she took her kids and her secretary and fucked off again in March of 1975. Like she just fled town because she was like, I think people are going to come for me and I'm not going to announce where I'm going. Like I'm just going to fuck off. How are you feeling so far?
I'm feeling like I want to know what she's thinking. I'm like, you know you're doing something wrong or no?
The Dallas police are pretty stumped on where she would have gone. You know what I mean? Dallas reporters are also stumped on it. So what do? They say, who's that secretary that she lives with? What's her deal? Seems a bit fruity, innit? So they find out that her secretary, Vivian Barrett, has a brother who lives in Michigan. They fly an investigator out to see the brother, and they say, hey, Liz has skipped town. She is obsessed with your sister. They live together. Why? Where
Obsessed.
is she? They don't say that, but they're like, why do they live together? That's ridiculous. And the brother's like, I literally don't know. Like, I know that they were in Dallas. They will tell me wherever they go, but I just, like, I don't know right now because they have fucked off. And the investigators are like, here's one more thing for you to puzzle on. When we type Liz Carmichael into like our 1970s computers, when we call other like police stations about her, we cannot yield any results pre-1974. Why is there no record of this woman ever existing?
Name change?
The brother sighs. He says, Liz Carmichael is not the name she was born with. She is transgender.
Oh.
Which, to me, is iconic. It's
interesting.
Legendary. It's a slay. And I want to pause for a second now and do explaining of why I'm telling the story like this. I worried that it'd be insensitive to do like a gender reveal party in the middle of the story. That like the fact that she's transgender to me is legendary and very much a win. But also it's a major reason why the story becomes a national like outrage and there's a subsequent media firestorm directed at her.
Oh.
I suspect no one would have cared as much about a girl boss who like flees town, but her transgender identity instantly becomes the frame around which journalists like tell the story.
So the brother outed her.
Yes. He's like, here's the reason why you can't find any records of her, because like she did not exist under that name that you currently know her as. I don't want to subscribe to that same framing with like a duplicitous reveal mid-story. However, I wanted to tell the story the way I researched it, because I have a really bad habit of like only reading the first few paragraphs when I'm like doing the initial research. So I didn't know until like halfway through my research. I was like, oh shit, she's trans? Awesome! That crushes. But again, the reason I've been sitting on this story for a while, because I've wanted to do this story for a while, is because I was afraid of contributing to like a duplicitous transgender person narrative. However, here's how I sleep at night. HBO released this 4-part docuseries called The Lady in the Dale that one of the directors spent like 10 years researching. The film was created by and heavily features the input of trans women, and I wanted to read some of what they say about the story. This is from a Forbes article. Quote, "The first thing I said was, do I really want to portray this person? Because I don't know if she portrays the trans community in the best possible light," says Jillian Cameron, a retired high school English teacher and the voice actor for Liz, like in the film. She said 2 things won her over. One of the directors' involvement, one of the directors is a trans woman, and the script provided Carmichael was so much more than just a con artist. Quote, "She is quintessentially American," Cameron declared. No matter whether we want to acknowledge it or not, we love con artists in this country. And if you look in literature, how many of our heroes are people who are getting along by the skin of their teeth and by their sheer will and audacity?
The American dream.
Right! Dr. Susan Stryker agreed that one of her favorite parts of the documentary is how the protagonist is a rascal, she said.
Rascal pile.
Rascal pile! This is a quote from Stryker. "Liz Carmichael is a kind of populist folk hero. This is not the trans woman I want to grow up to be, necessarily. She's messy. But we were able to see all of her complexity with all of her flaws and delusions, as well as her passions and her accomplishments. And by that end, it's like, oh, she's a complicated, interesting trans character."
A human.
Right. So I was like, shit, yeah, I want to tell this story on my podcast because I feel like, my listeners are down for that sort of shit. So here we are. So what's the full tea? Like, let's get some backstory here. Everything I told you about getting married to that NASA engineer, complete shim-sham. Lies. Not true. She actually did not even grow up on a farm, I believe. She grew up like somewhere like in a brick house in Indiana.
You showed up to lie today.
I did show up to lie today. Do you remember the first 15 minutes of this podcast? So completely ignore that. Pre-meeting Vivian and pre-transition, Liz Carmichael was a petty criminal of sorts, like writing checks that don't have, like checks that bounce all the time. She worked at a paper company where they had a scheme to just print money in the 50s.
Why don't they just print more money? I'm always saying this.
Why don't they just print more money? And then they print it and they were like, this money looks too clean. Let's like dirty it up. Crime was so awesome back then because for the most part you could just like commit a crime, skip town, and then do another crime somewhere else because it's the fucking 50s.
Possibilities.
Right. So 40s and 50s era, she's a counterfeit artist who loves printing money, being arrested, getting married, having kids, and skipping town. She has 3 different wives and 5 different children at this time.
Wow.
However, in 1959, she meets the love of her life, Vivian, and with her has 5 additional kids. These are the children that she lives with and is most aptly described as the parent of, not the first 5. So she
has a lot of kids.
She has 10.
Wow. She's mother to some of these people.
She's mother to me. The whole time I was like, mother. But the first 5 kids, I presume she has no contact with. Like, the 5 kids that she has with Vivian are the ones that she, like, raises.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend much time on this, but the documentary explains that even pre-Vivian, Liz had been expressing like transgender feelings to her friends. I only paused to mention this because her transgender identity has a lot to do with the court hearings that are going to come up. Of like, she's a scam artist who's using this trans identity to evade the law and like blah, blah, blah. I don't subscribe to this line of thinking, obviously. And not that I have to explain her identity to anyone, but she had multiple surgeries, was constantly like on the search for hormones and got hormones. I don't want to argue the metaphysical validity of her existence. Like, she's trans, that's none of my fucking business. Like, that's what happens like midway through the story. She's trans. So she's living with Vivian and her kids in California for a while, at least from 1959 to 1974, where she invents the company, and then like we start at the beginning. You know what I mean? So that's her backstory. She's like a petty criminal who's like skipped out on bail, loves printing money.
Loves dirtying it up.
And loves dirtying it up and then skipping town. So that's the true Liz Carmichael backstory. So when the investigators find this out, like this petty criminal backstory, the Dallas police contact the LAPD because they're like, hey, she was in Dallas for a second. You know, we know she did her crimes in LA. God, this sucks so fucking hard. So there's a police officer at the LAPD who hears about this and just calls up Tucker Carlson's dad and is like, you're not going to believe this girl.
Just to gossip?
Yeah. And also, notably, Tucker Carlson's dad is also a news guy. Like, he also had his own show where he did, not exactly what Tucker Carlson does, but like basically what Tucker Carlson does. He had already done 20 stories on Liz Carmichael before this.
Obsession.
Obsessed. And then finds out that she's trans, and when you're a conservative, like, news pundit, it's like, here's every single transphobic thing I could say ever, all the time, on the air. He actually did not ask anyone at the station before running the story. He just, like, got the information, he was like, I'm doing this tonight. Like, I'm not asking my managers, I'm fucking doing this. So, sorry.
The person running the teleprompter is like,
Wait a minute. It just says she skipped town. Where did you get the rest of that? I'm sorry. Did I? I'm going to throw up. I would hate to be that guy that night. Maybe it was the 70s, so it was cue cards.
They're like, laugh. Clap.
Shit. Say so.
Where are they now?
For those, you're familiar with Tucker Carlson, I assume. Are you familiar enough to explain any of his doings to people who might not know who that is?
No.
He's just like a conservative pundit who goes on Fox News and like complains about shit all the time. Specifically, he hates trans people. And I read this interesting article that I'm apparently not interesting enough to put in my script and quote, but they were like, well, Tucker's dad was his hero, and like Dick Carlson's main like pursuit in his adult life was Liz Carmichael. Like he ran so many more stories about her. He got obsessed, started carrying around a gun with him because he believed Liz Carmichael was like gonna come kill him. Which, like, she's never, before or since, been accused of anything violent, but, like, he just demonized her so much and just, like, picked at this wound over and over again and just, like, psyched himself up to be terrified of her. And that's, like, the person that Tucker Carlson grew up with. So the article was just,
that's
like...
bizarre.
That's a straight line that we're connecting here, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Just, like, strange. But it's an important part of the story because it's, like... Damn, Dick Carlson like gets everybody fucking pissed about this lady.
Sorry, is his name Dick?
Yes.
Cool. Right on, Richard.
I miss when people went by Dick. What happened to
Bring
that?
it back.
Bring it back. You know who's my favorite president? Dick Nixon, who we mentioned earlier in the story. Funniest president ever. Who's your favorite president? Do you have one?
It's just so hard to pick, unironically. How do you pick one of those?
It's Richard Nixon. Richard Milhouse Nixon. Dickie Mill.
Stop, really? Milhouse?
Yeah.
He's definitely the president they make fun of the most on Futurama.
That's very true.
And that's all I've got. What
a big sleigh. So... Once again, we're at the point where she skipped town, right? We're December 1974 or something? No, I'm sorry, March 1975. Whatever, fuck it. We're sometime then. They go to Vivian's brother. He says, oh, actually, like, here's her dead name. You can find information about her here. They do. Dick Carlson goes on TV and is like, where is this woman? Because we still do not know where she is with her 5 kids and her secretary. So, once again, how are you feeling so far?
I'm just like, where is she? What is she up to now? Is she alive?
Yes.
Today?
No.
Oh, yes, no.
Maybe.
So.
I thought you were going to say, is she alive, like, in the story still? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
So the hunt, like, begins for this woman. March 1975 to April 1975, they cannot find this woman. But then in Miami, Florida, the FBI raids her home, apprehends her. She's convicted on the bail jumping charges from her petty criminal days and the Dale stuff. So... we're about to enter the trial phase. I'm not sure, but somehow we're in 1979 now. Years go by, I don't know.
Yeah.
Bail is set at $50,000. The trial is scheduled. But Cookie, Liz posts the bail. Like, she coughs up $50,000, and then she disappears again. And for 8 years, nobody found her.
Good for her.
So the years are passing. They cannot find this woman. 1980, 81, 82, 83. Well, all the way up to 1988. Nobody's finding her. Do you know the NBC show Unsolved Mysteries?
Yeah. Everything you're mentioning, I'm like, I've heard of it.
Okay, great. You have heard of it.
Yeah.
It's this show where they will tell the story of like a criminal from the past and be like, well, this murder was never solved or like this, whatever. So in their first ever season in 1989, episode 6, I believe, it's about Liz Carmichael. This lady who's like transgender, obviously, like all the stories now are just like this trans lady did all this, stole a bunch of money and then fucked off. A woman in Texas calls up the show and she says, I think that's my neighbor. She's going by a different name now, like Catherine or whatever, and she sells flowers. And that's how she gets caught. It's because of an episode of Unsolved Mysteries on NBC.
Bro.
And you know where she was living?
Where?
A town in Texas called Dale.
On purpose? It has to be on purpose, because come on.
Come on.
That's hilarious. She was selling flowers?
Yeah, she had like a flower shop, like her kids worked at it, and like she employed a bunch of like homeless people to go sell flowers on the road, which also you need a permit to do, and she did not have one. So that's rascal behavior. Living in Dale, Texas. So part next. I don't know. Fine. The trial.
There's only one part.
Yeah, this has been one part so far. I've labeled it as parts in my script, like to like clear my head, but it's all one part. So it is actually now trial time. I'm not lying. She doesn't skip down again. Liz is put in jail. The bail was either like higher than before, or she didn't have the money to cough up because like she'd been living for 8 years as a flower salesman. I'm fuzzy on this detail because I only skimmed the documentary. I can't watch a documentary. I'll be honest. I can only read. Like,
okay.
I wish the
movies in general, or just documentaries because they're nonfiction?
Documentaries for research specifically. Like, I wish they just made it an article.
Like, it's not fast enough.
It's not fast enough, and I can't watch it at 2 times speed because then I get none of it.
Yeah.
But like generally, I enjoy kicking back and watching a doc. But yeah, like if I need to find out information right now, I'm not fucking watching that thing. Like I'm gonna find the article that somebody wrote about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's why I'm fuzzy on the following detail. But she's in such a condition where she's not allowed to pick her legal defense. Like, because I don't know, you're being charged for something like you get assigned a public defender or something like that. So she's indicted on a lot of grand conspiracy fraud charges. Like, it's over for her. You know what she does? For the 14 months before the trial that she spends in jail, she studies the law and then represents herself in court.
Okay.
Which, I don't know how much, like, Law and Order you have ever seen in your life or how much you are familiar with the law.
0.
Don't ever do that.
I didn't know that.
It is a bad idea. You do not know the law. You will never be able to study enough on your own to represent yourself in court. However, it's 1989. Arguably, trans rights are a lot worse than they are today, as you can imagine. But it's not always ever been great. That said, she's just like, a public defender is not going to represent me fully and like is going to come up with some like excuse that I don't subscribe to, or like, I don't know, just like not tell the story the way I would tell the story. Because famously, she is very good at getting people to believe her stories.
A storyteller at heart.
She is a storyteller at heart. So once again, she's representing herself in court. And like I said, trans rights not great before. That said, the court does recognize her as Liz Carmichael. Like, they don't dead name her the entire trial. Like, it's just she's tried as Liz,
even though she's living under a new name now.
Yeah, that was just like a alias.
Okay.
Like, her name, her wife still called her Liz. Like, she just told strangers that her name was like Katherine Johnson, because you can't tell people your name is Liz Carmichael.
Yeah.
Because she's like a smart criminal, you know. She's not gonna like keep using that name. You have to go under an alias.
Yeah.
So, also, you said Carmichael to start with. And you're like, that's funny because cars. Her last name used to just be Michael. Like, I think she added the car.
Just on purpose?
I think so.
It worked. Everyone wanted her idea.
Right.
Everyone bought it.
She's like, it's in the name. I don't know how you can deny. Because like all of her kids have the last name Michael. Also, one of her sons is named Michael.
Stop.
I hate it.
Why?
I don't know. That's dumb.
I'm off Team Liz.
Right. He's like listed as Michael in the documentary.
That's just sad.
I feel bad for him. That blows.
That sucks.
This is not anyone related to her, but there's someone in Wikipedia named Michael Carmichael. Which is just like,
it's just ridiculous.
That's not her fault, but that blows.
That sucks.
But yeah, I guess she goes by Liz Carmichael, but the rest of the family goes by like, you know, like whoever Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Michael,
famously. So they address her as Miss in court. They recognize her status as a woman, even though that sort of infrastructure did not exist at the time. And to me, I live. So in court, she's representing herself. She's funny. She's charming. She does, in fact, get a lot of legal stuff wrong, because you should never represent yourself in court. She lectures the court on, like, monopolies of car companies. Kind of a slay. Here's some good quotes from the court documents. Are you ready? Quote, Carmichael discussed financing the manufacture and production of the Dale vehicle with a stockbroker and was advised the need for complying with certain regulations and obtaining a permit to sell stock. Her response, that such procedures were too time-consuming and, quote, to heck with regulations and to hell with permits.
So she tells the court this?
Yes. Awesome. Or somebody tells the court this. Quote, during her testimony, she responded to she responded to questions posed by the deputy district attorney and also presented a narrative discourse on the operations of her company. Her testimony was interrupted when she launched into a diatribe, which included such matters as an alleged scandal involving the Los Angeles Times publisher, Otis Chandler, allegations that General Motors is still effectively controlled by the DuPont family, IT&T owns a controlling interest in ABC TV, the New York Stock Exchange controls the SEC, Joseph Kennedy manipulated a stock exchange swindle in the 30s, Merrill Lynch is named in suits on average once a year, but nothing's ever done about it. Like, she's just like rambling about
Yeah, just throwing out distractions.
Right. Quote, our examination of the record satisfies us that the defendant had adequate opportunity to present her evidence. She was simply curtailed in her improper attempt to lecture the jury on irrelevant matters.
She got up on her soapbox.
Right, and she was not stepping down. However, quote, the trial of this case lasted over 7 months. The jury deliberated for 11 days and then reported back that it was deadlocked on all counts.
What is deadlocked? Like, they decided...
Like, they just couldn't agree. You know, like, half of them were like, she's guilty. Half of them were like, she's not. And they were just, like, not budging. You know, they were like... There were some people who were like, this woman's innocent. Like, I was convinced about her rant about the New York Times controlling the SEC or whatever.
Have you ever been on jury duty or been summoned?
Not yet, and I really want to be. Now I'm registered in Chicago, so I hope I get assigned. Have you?
I've been summoned, but I got out of it because I was like, I have class that day.
Wow.
You can use that as an excuse.
Excuse. I want to be on jury duty. Are you kidding me?
It's like not something well, maybe I shouldn't say that publicly on a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for sure.
Public duty, whatever.
Well, I'm not even being like a simp for public duty. I'm just like, I love gossip.
I want to be the first one to know.
I want to be the first to know. Which I'll probably get disqualified immediately for like 8 bajillion different things. Specifically, probably this podcast. I think is what's going to disqualify me from doing jury duty ever. So they're deadlocked. They have to do like a bunch of procedures to actually get a fucking decision because you can't just like have no decision as a decision. They came to the verdict that she does need to serve time in prison. She winds up serving, actually, give me your guess. Grand conspiracy, grand theft, stock fraud. With like several other co-conspirators.
Are you asking how much did she end up serving, or what was she?
How much do you think she's gonna end up serving, or like how much do you think she was sentenced to? 3
years.
Wow. No, she served 1.5 years.
Okay.
So after 18 months, that's 1.5 years, right? Oh, thank God. She just serves 18 months and then fucks back off to flowers. Like, she just sells flowers. Her wife Vivian dies sometime between 2000 and 2003. Having divorced at the trial, the two still like spoke every single day. So it's unclear if they like broke up because like legal stuff or if it was like, you know, it was like, I'm stressed because you're a criminal and whatever. Either way, they still talked every single day. So they clearly, like, according to the documentary at least, still loved each other deeply, like, toward the end of their lives. Liz Carmichael died of cancer and of diabetes in 2004, surrounded by family. She was 77 years old. What a fucking life!
And we still don't have these 3-wheeled cars.
No, we don't. They never came to be, actually.
Do you think it's like the concept of a 3-wheeled car that is, or is it just how hodgepodge they built the prototypes?
I think that we have the engineering capacity to try and build a 3-wheel car. We do not have any incentive to build a 3-wheel car because there's no storage space. Like, gone are the days of like, or maybe they're still here. I don't know. I don't know anything about cars. I don't jack shit. But like, I feel gone are the days of like flashy cars that are like, you know, not practical at all unless you're like the uber wealthy trying to show something off or like, you know, just like have a fun car. Yeah. Most people drive for function though.
Right.
So it's like, if you can't store anything in it and like it's hard to make.
Yeah.
Like, why bother?
Yeah.
And I also think it's like, well, if it ain't broke, cars don't have 5 wheels, do they?
One in the middle.
Just a little extra support in there. I think it's a pretty good idea. I'm thinking about patenting it. But how are you? What's your takeaway here? Because I'm obsessed with this lady.
I'm just like, you got away with it for so long.
And like, I know 3 years in prison, I'm sorry, 1.5 years in prison is like a long time, plus the 14 months she spent like waiting to go to jury.
Right.
Or trial. However, given the amount of money that she had allegedly bilked, dare I say?
Yeah.
Fucking slay. Legendary. I guess the rich people don't really go to jail for those kind of crimes. So I guess I'm not that surprised. I don't know why I found it surprising.
Yeah, she's kind of an icon. She's also kind of a dumbass.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So my sympathy does, in fact, not that I've necessarily need sympathy for her or whatever, but like my standing, shall I say, runs dry when I think about those kids that like had to get moved all the time.
Yeah.
Don't have any legal infrastructure or like legal support or whatever.
Yeah.
All of them say, or at least 3 of them in the documentary, say that she was a very like loving, attentive parent and like emotionally present and supportive and they had like a generally good household. But like at some point, it is negligent to not set your kids up to live in a society that everyone else lives in.
Yeah.
You know, like as much as you dream of building a high-ass fence and seceding from society, as she literally said she wanted to do,
yeah.
like you can't do that with your kids. Like they have to also live in society.
Yeah.
So fucking libertarians. I can't stand them. So she's like it's awesome to have LGBT rascals as representation. I think I feel good telling her story also because my platform isn't that big. And again, like I think my niche audience is down for this sort of thing. But to me, she's like delusional, ambitious, got politics I wouldn't touch with a 20-foot pole. She's hysterical. She's cunning. She's an icon to Busted Business Bureau. To me, like classic.
So how does she compare to Elizabeth Holmes to you?
Now listen, Elizabeth Holmes put on that dumbass voice and that turtleneck and frayed her hair and said, I'm going to make way more money over a longer period of time. But then I feel when she got caught, she wasn't as funny.
Yeah. Because
Like-
she didn't run away so much?
Right. Did she run? I actually don't know that much. I didn't watch the damn Hulu
I didn't
breakout, dropout, whatever it was. But as far as I'm aware, like the skipping town was minimal. If she lived in Theranos, Texas, that shit would have rocked. But she did not. If she was caught because of an episode of an NBC like dumb show, that would be one thing. But she wasn't.
Wow. The culture.
Right. So to me, like Liz Carmichael is just like, damn, all this shit happened? Are you kidding me? What? And, you know, I think about that picture of her standing in front of the Dale, cigarette in her hand. She's like, I'm going to be the queen of the auto industry. And to me, she is a queen. Like, she slays. That's
Would you
my
say she
takeaway.
succeeded?
At what exactly? Just generally? That is a tough question, because then you have to ask, like, what does she really want?
Yeah.
Does she want money? Does she want fame? Because certainly she had, like, her 15 seconds of fame. Immediately toppled down with like horrendous transphobia that she faced for the rest of her life, you know? Like the time she spent in jail was in a men's prison. Like when I say the court recognized her as a woman, I just meant like the court, not the actual like legal system
Right.
after. So it was damn funny. Now I don't know about successful, but damn, that shit was fun. What a
It's good we
scam.
can laugh. It's good we can laugh.
Yeah. Because, yeah. What do you think?
No thoughts, head empty. I'm just like, yeah, she lived a life. She chose how she wanted to live it.
Yeah. Also, Elizabeth Holmes not being as much of a spoken libertarian as Elizabeth Carmichael. Like, the libertarian angle really tickles me personally. Because I don't know if you know any libertarians. Insufferable.
Yeah, yeah.
People who... I saw, like, an apt comparison to, like, cats. Like, they are fully dependent on a system that they reject and shun and, like, don't understand.
Interesting.
Like, a cat cannot survive without you doing all the things to keep your cat alive. But your
Yeah.
cat is convinced that he's staunchly independent.
Yeah.
Much like a libertarian believes that they do not need, like, roads or taxes or school to succeed.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you didn't have any of that shit, like, you would not have food. Do you know how hard it is to farm? That's my libertarian rant.
I don't even know how hard it is to farm.
Oh my god, it's unbelievably
Never
difficult.
been asked to do that.
Good. Me either, now that I mention it. Isn't that great? Well, have you learned anything new today?
A lot.
Really?
I learned about a whole new person that I didn't know existed.
And I'm surprised she's not more famous, actually. Like, this HBO documentary, I mean, I assume it did fine, but it's on the one streaming service. It's not like the Elizabeth Holmes treatment. Also because it wasn't now.
Yeah.
But-
It is amazing how many things are so big in the news in their time that just don't last at all.
Yeah.
Like, how did you even hear about this story? What was the catalyst?
I think I just Googled, like, famous scammers. This is, like, when I first started the podcast. And then I saw one that was, like, Elizabeth Carmichael, and I was like, who the fuck is that? Which is then, that's, like, why I only skimmed and scanned and, like, just didn't get any of the, like, deeper parts of the story. And I was like, damn, that's pretty funny. And I saw that she was trans, and I was like, oh, slay. This is going to be an episode someday. But I think I wanted to get my bearings first as, like, a podcaster.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, understand how to tell stories a little better. But...
Very interesting.
Right. And it's just like, damn, all this happened and nobody cares? Cool. All right. I wonder how many things in our day are going to be lost to time
I know.
that we care about so much right now. I'm thinking Elon Musk. That's my guess.
Yeah,
People
I like
care
that
a
guess.
lot about him right now, and I don't think they're going to care all that much about him in about 5 years.
I hope so.
Oh, God, I'm sick of hearing about it.
Yeah, I had to delete Twitter and Instagram. Not that he's on Instagram, but...
He's not?
Or actually, I don't know. I don't see him on there
Can't
as
see
much
that
as...
gorgeous face? I mean,
Stop.
Yeah, I set a thing on my phone that only lets me be on Twitter and Instagram for 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
Which I have not ever gone over it apparently yet, but Yeah.
I also have that set up, but I always click 15 more minutes. It's a really bad, like, my hands just know where to go before I even have time to, like, consciously stop myself.
I've never been prompted. I didn't realize it does that.
It's bad.
Damn. Maybe I'll set it for less time then, so I can see the
Just to
timer.
experience it.
Right. All right. Well, that's kind of all I have for you today, Cookie.
That was sick.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I hope to have you on a future episode, my dear friend.
Yeah, I'd love to be back.
Oh shit! We went to Blue Sushi Sake today for brunch.
We did.
Oh,
famously.
delicious. Oh, so good.
Let's go back.
Let's go back. Let's go back right now.
Do you want to?
Actually, I could eat. All right, this has been Busted Business Bureau. Once again, if you like this podcast, you can go on patreon.com/bustedbizbureau. Oh shit! Also, thanks everyone for donating to my Patreon. That shit rules. I got a bunch of new patrons like recently.
Congrats.
Thank you. You guys are really holding the fort down, and I like the prospect of having less jobs. I would like to do less. I would like to do more podcasting, I think,
Yeah.
and less having a job.
Very cool.
Or make podcasting my job. I don't know. Once again, check out Split Ends at splitendsmovie.com, right?
Yeah, splitintsfilm.com.
.com.
.org.
I'm a rube.
.net.
And, yeah, like and subscribe. Don't forget to drink water. Any positive affirmations you want to tell everyone before we go?
Oh, stay warm.
All right, see y'all later. Bye.
Bye.